Hi, I'm Sabeena Maharjan, and welcome to the Reset Mantra. Have you ever felt disconnected and misaligned, especially in your late 20s and 30s, where we often find ourselves yearning for clarity and seeking tools to aid our inner evolution? I've learned that when we feel this way, all we need is to hit that reset button, unlearn old belief patterns, and relearn what truly matters to us. This podcast is here to support that journey by sharing insightful stories and conversations with experts and guests from diverse backgrounds. Through deep conversations fueled by curiosity, we explore the depths of the human experience. Together, let's explore the magic within ourselves and support each other along the way. I am very excited about today's episode. We have a very special first guest today, someone who I really am inspired by, and I really need to get to know her a little bit better on the show today. She has quite an impressive bio. I'm going to just share some of the incredible things she has achieved and working currently. She is an applied scientist specializing in machine learning and natural language processing, with a particular passion for low-resource NLP, especially in South Asian languages. She is the founder and co-advisor of Nepali Women Plus in Computing, which is a volunteer-run global community of Nepali tech enthusiasts and professionals empowering women and marginalized genders in the field of computing. Her blog, Techasar, is an online platform aimed at providing a comprehensive resource hub for young tech enthusiasts, enabling them to discover and access various avenues for professional growth and development. She was one of the finalists for She Inspires Women in Global Leadership Awards 2023. She was recognized in the Applaud Her Awards 100 Technologists to Watch 2023 list by Women Who Code, a global community of over 300,000 tech enthusiasts. Please join me in welcoming our very first guest, Shreeya Dhakal. Shreeya, a very warm welcome, and it's an honor to have you here with us today.
It's a pleasure to be here, Sabeena. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, the pleasure is all mine. There's a lot that I want to ask you, but to kick things off, tell us about your journey from knowing the first time you wanted to become a scientist and now actually working as one and specializing in machine learning and natural language processing.
Yeah, so growing up, I never imagined I'd work in tech or machine learning or natural language processing. I never thought I'd be a scientist in the field. Growing up, I looked up to my dad, who has been working in the space of children and women empowerment for over 3 decades now. So I was considering getting into fields like social work or environmental science, where I could see the direct impact of my work in the community. So being a scientist was out of picture for the longest time until college. Things changed drastically when I went to college. I never planned to, but I ended up in an engineering program. Did not like it for like almost 1.5 years. But then in the second year in college, I knew I loved being in tech. And I also was fascinated by language. In particular, I did a project in college in the space of Nepali language processing. And since then, I wanted to contribute to the field of natural language processing, especially Nepali. The desire to research and develop linguistic tools and models for Nepali stems not just from my professional interest, but also from a personal connection to Nepal and Nepali. Nepali is my native language, and it is also the only language that my mother communicates in. So, it is very important for me that the technologies that I build work in Nepali and understand Nepali. So that's how I started in the field of natural language processing. And I am where I am today because of this passion of mine. I'm an applied scientist by profession, a part-time blogger, and a community leader in the space.
Incredible. And this was in North Carolina, that's where you went to the college, right?
North Carolina State is where I went for my grad school. That's also a set of impactful years of my life. But I went to college back in Nepal. The college is called Nepal College of Information Technology. It's affiliated to Pokhara University. So that's where I went to college, and that's where everything basically started for me in this space.
Incredible. So I want to talk a little bit about your community. I know that you founded a Nepali Women Plus in computing to support aspiring Nepali women technologists around the globe. And with this community, I also do see you advocate for inclusion of gender minorities. And I want to know a little bit about how this community was born and when did you start it?
So Nepali Women Plus in Computing is a product of shared experiences of Nepali individuals in tech, especially those in the US. Every conversation I had with another fellow Nepali in tech there was this reoccurring theme. All of us agreed that there was a lack of connection or network of Nepali tech professionals and a huge gap in knowledge in terms of what and how to navigate the US tech space. Even though hundreds of Nepali people before us had successfully navigated their careers in tech and now are in high up leadership positions in tech, the newer generation still faced a huge knowledge gap. So did I when I started my grad school in 2018. It was in 2018 I moved to the US with big dreams and soon realized that I did not even know when to start applying for summer internships. Something as simple as when to start applying for summer internships. So my peers from India and China knew. They're well ahead of schedule. They had internships before spring semester even started. And that's when I realized that what I lacked was knowledge of when to do things and how to do things. But I also realized that I was not alone in this. In 2019, I attended Grace Hopper celebration and met a few other Nepali girls there, all of whom shared a similar experience as mine of not knowing when and how to do things. Right? So it was during those conversations in GSC, the idea of starting Nepali Women Plus in Computing materialized. We started out as a story series because we wanted to share the stories of Nepali women and marginalized groups in tech, because we genuinely believe that stories can change the world and also give women like us role models to look up to. Then 2 months later, in January 2020, we decided to become more than just a story series, a community of Nepali individuals in tech, we were starting out on a journey to building a community to bridge this information gap. So I'm immensely grateful to the conversations I had during the conference. In fact, one of the girls I met during GSC is a fellow leader at Nepali Women Plus in Computing now and has been instrumental in our efforts and work as a community. So that's how Nepali Women in Computing came to be. Yeah.
That's a very incredible story. What I really loved about this is that your mindset about this solutions-driven approach. You experienced certain challenges, as a woman in tech industry, and you identified that gap and you wanted to bridge that gap for your fellow women in tech industry, especially from South Asian background. And I love that solution that you came up with to support other women in tech and, to give them sort of a roadmap and mentor. I think that's a great initiative. So Shreya, that one thing we both have in common, we both are from Nepal. And I wanted to ask you, in what ways have your South Asian roots influenced your journey, particularly, traveling across the globe to go to college here in the USA? And And how do you believe those cultural influences have shaped you, not only in your personal journey, but also in your professional pursuits, especially in the context of women in technology?
In a lot of different ways, Sabeena. Like there's not one way, one single way it has. There were like a lot of positive and negative influences of how I grew up in my career in general. And what I mean by that is, as South Asian, growing up in Nepal, I was not taught to ask questions. I was, asked to say yes to everything, basically, right? So because of that, that has had a huge impact in my career negatively in so many ways, because now when I look back at things, I realize that not asking questions has cost me quite a lot, especially early on, right? Not asking questions would mean I would not have access to the same kind of information or the resources I would otherwise have. Of course, that has changed over the years after being in the US. I'm more confident about asking questions, and also like not just questions, asking for help. We are really taught to, while we grow up in a community with this idea that you are a person who is a part of a community, you work together, do things together. But at the same time, I feel like it is there in our culture where we're taught that you have to be self-reliant, you have to do it by yourself. And I think that has also like put me in tough situation quite a lot of times, where I could have taken help and it would have been done in few minutes rather than spending an entire day on it. So that is like one thing. But the other things that being a Nepali, growing up in a Nepali culture has taught me is like to be very strong, mentally very strong, take things as they are and look at the brighter side of the tunnel, right? We are very hopeful. That's how I remember my life in Nepal. That's how I remember people from Nepal as. Like when I think of them, we are very hopeful people. So we are very strong, resilient at the same time. Like, there were some issues with being self-reliant and stuff, but at the same time, I feel like we are very resilient, we are hopeful, and being in a completely different country with a completely different cultural space with people who do not speak your own language, do not have a lot of overlap in terms of culture and the way you do things. I think having that mental strength and being resilient really helps. So, and being hopeful really helps. But at the same time, trying to be hyper self-independent has a lot of times cost me a lot. Not being able to ask questions, not being able to ask for help has cost me quite a lot. So over the time, I've learned that, you can ask for help, you can ask questions. It's okay to do all of those things. So yeah, I think those are the things, some of the things that has helped me immensely, and some things haven't.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think everything you said, I am 100% on board, especially about this asking questions. I think when I was a kid, I remember our families, even in teachers in school and surrounding, would glorify us, telling you're a good kid if you stay quiet, follow instructions, and don't ask questions. If you ask questions, you're in that flagged list of kids who are very mischievous and not obedient. So I think culturally we're shaped to follow rules and fit in the box and just do what you're told and don't ask questions, especially to your elders, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's surprising how, when I think of the kind of impact it has had on me growing up, it's immense, because I grew up in a family that was okay with me asking questions. In fact, my father encouraged me asking questions, right? But then I do the same outside of the house in my school. And now I am a troublemaker in the class,
Mm-hmm.
right? I'm a troublemaker in the class. And I I don't know if you lived the same experience as I did, but I think a lot of Nepali people who went to schools in Nepal at that time, we also had corporal punishments in school. We used to get beaten up for
Yes.
being the loud one. So
Yes.
so I think the society, even though my family was like encouraging, my parents were encouraging me to ask questions, be curious. The society did shut me down in so many ways, and that did have like kind of impact when I moved to the US and started working independently. That did affect me in so many ways, but I do think that because my family was more liberal in that sense, it was easier for me to get back into being curious again, asking questions, asking for help. So yeah, but yeah, like this is one thing that I think the society did. They took away
Took away.
from me something that I already knew, and I had to relearn everything once I got here in the US.
No, absolutely. I think 100%. I did have similar experience in school where if you're a little bit different from other kids, you're a troublemaker. And I've stood outside of classes and gotten punishments for for not following the rules, and I was very good at not following the rules. But yeah, I think all those limited beliefs that we learned as a kid, as I moved to States, I had, just like you, I had to unlearn a lot of those things. There's definitely a lot of layers to be shed and a lot of unlearning to do as an adult. So Shreya, I know you mentioned a little bit about this in the beginning of the conversation, and you'd also mentioned in one of your past interviews that, when you were doing all of the NLP research work, which you are very proud of and we all are proud of, and you wanted your mom to be able to understand what is it that you're doing, and that inspired you to create I Code for My Vasha. Can you tell us more about this?
Of course, like I think my mother definitely has been one of the reasons, I would say, behind why I push forward in this direction so strongly. And it is not just like limited to my mother, like, my grandparents do not communicate in any other language other than Nepali, and there is a large portion of people, like population in Nepal, that only communicates in Nepali, and Nepali is my native language. So I'm really passionate about developing technologies that work in Nepali, and like in the current tech world today, I really want technologies to understand, right? So yeah, that is definitely a major reason why I work or continue pushing forward in the space of low resource natural language processing. It just is interesting. Like there's a lot of work in the space for English and other high resource languages, but the same models that do great for English do not perform well when we move to a more low resource language like Nepali. And also, I'm really passionate about language in general and linguistic features of language in general. And Nepali is a highly morphologically complex language. And that really fascinates me to be able to make models, language technologies work for something as complex as Nepali. It is just all very interesting to me, but it is definitely powered by this personal connection to being a Nepali, to make machines like computers be able to understand human language. Like basically, if I say something in Nepali, it is able to understand what I'm saying. But when it comes to something as simple as having an app's name in Nepali text, it wasn't there at the time when I started. iPhone did not have Nepali text when I started. You can type in Nepali now, like, you grew up in Nepal. In schools, like the kind of emphasis they have on learning English versus Nepali. There's in most of the boarding schools in Nepal, there is like one course in Nepali that is Nepali, and everything else is in English.
Yes. Yes.
Right? And then In my schools, if my teachers found me talking in Nepali, I would have to pay fine for it,
Oh, tell me about it. Yes.
right? So, like, we as a society collectively, we are doing so much that, people from Nepal don't learn Nepali,
Mm.
right? And then, like, added with the fact that there's this tech boom, everything is growing, and then our language is just not a part of it. At least it was true at that time, and that really brought in so many ways.
Yeah, no, I think that was very empowering because as kid, someone who went to school in Nepal, I'm pretty sure there's a positive change that they wanted to instill or bring by teaching us how to speak English. So I went to boarding school just like you. So out of, I know, 8, 9 courses, there were only one Nepali subject and maybe a grammar in Nepali. I think so. And we were required to speak in English. And if you don't speak English in class, in playgrounds, you would be punished and you had to pay a fine. I had exactly the same experience. But now growing up, we want to save our language, right? And this is what exactly you're doing through your work. And I think that's very impactful. We definitely have to save our language, our culture, our heritage, right? Because that's who we are. It's still today. So that's very, very, very impactful.
Yeah, and when I was just starting out on working in Nepali NLP, like I said, there was no linguistic resources for Nepali to begin with, right? So that is like one thing. The lack of these tools and resources is one thing. But while I was working on it, I was constantly reminded of the fact how our schools really, push us forward to be able to communicate in English. And all that is great because English is still the language that is, spoken all over the world. That would give us a competitive advantage when we come to like international um, space or community like the US, right? Another country, basically. Like learning English or any other language gives you a competitive edge. But not being able to communicate in your own language, it's painful. Like when I think about it now, even today, I feel like I have more English vocabulary in my head than I have Nepali. And Nepali is a beautiful language in its complexity. What I would preference it is to have a open source, a fine-tuned Llama model for Nepali that works well with Nepali, and you can chat with it, you can communicate with it, and it is able to understand and reply things in Nepali.
So I wanted to ask you, now you are a phenomenal tech blogger. I know this because I've gone through Techasar, your blog. Can you tell us about what inspired you to create this platform, especially for women in tech and all youth technologists, and what sort of impact would you like to have in this industry?
I'm very intentional about what I put out. I really want to create a platform where youth around the globe can connect and find opportunities in tech. That's what Techasar basically is. The other name for it is Avasar. It's a word that I came up with for two reasons. One is it combines the word tech and avasar, which is a Nepali word for opportunities. Another reason that is just between the two of us is that was the cheapest domain that was available.
Okay, I won't publish this.
So that was the cheapest domain that was available. Like I was trying to merge a lot of, I was playing around with words because I work in language. I'm fascinated by how words are formed. So I was trying to have something that is Nepali, and then that is tech, and then that is opportunities. So that's how I came up with Techasar. And basically it's a baby. It's very new. I haven't done much with it other than putting out everything and everywhere I've been to up until now. Like, every conferences I've been to, every talk I have given, I put it all out in Techasar. My intention is people will take it and see what all opportunities are out. And the events that I've been to, my engagements are limited and small because I'm just one person, right? But there is a sea of opportunities out there. There are scholarships, fellowships, conferences that you can go to expand your network, to learn new skills, meet new people. And I want people to use Techasar to find those opportunities. That's what it is going to be. It's going to be a platform where youths from around the globe can connect and find opportunities. With Techasar, I am just scaling up what I have already been doing with Nepali Women Plus in computing. We need a niche community like that to support, minorities, but at the same time, I feel like scaling up the platform so that people all around the globe can leverage the kind of opportunities in tech that the world has to offer is important.
No, absolutely. I mean, I was just going to say that. You mentioned your engagement is small, but I think your engagement is very impactful. That's what matters. Sometimes people might have a huge amount of, people looking at their website, but if it doesn't impact them in a way, it doesn't matter, right? So I think when I went through your platform, I thought that was very interesting. First, because I'm so glad and proud to have a women representation and women in tech, and you're in stages speaking over all these tech conferences in US and also in Nepal. And I think that's a very proud moment, and to sort of hone into that leadership and talk about having or providing equal access and opportunities in tech industry. I think that's very impactful. I'm very proud of you.
Thank you.
So I wanted to ask you this as well. Sometimes women or men or any gender, when they are at certain phase of their career, want to pivot to a technical career. And I was telling you this off camera as well. I myself was a journalism and broadcasting major. Then I switched to accounting. Then I finally landed to information systems. And in this process, I've met many people around who pivoted their career to tech, for many different reasons. So I wanted to ask you from your perspective, if someone's looking to change their career in late 20s or even 30s, or thinking of starting their career, right, after a long gap into tech industry, what are some things that they should know, and perhaps where can they start?
That's actually a very good question. I think, first off, tech is a big field. I think it is very important to understand that. So you would need to first identify what kind of roles within tech that you're interested in. If you are trying to pivot into tech, or like getting back into tech after a career gap, you need to first know what kind of roles you're interested in. And there are certifications, boot camps, and trainings tailored towards those roles. So I would say first identify what you're interested in, then find those programs that are tailored for those roles. And I would definitely suggest to take some of those certifications and courses because not only they add value to your resume, but they will also help you understand the role better and the skill sets needed to do the job. So after you have identified the roles, learned the skills, gotten some certificates, and then what you can do is you can work on your resume, put together your resume, and leverage your network on LinkedIn. I think this is the most important part of the whole, cycle of pivoting into tech or getting back into tech after a career break. You need to leverage your network. It can be LinkedIn, it can be personal connections, it can be your peers from the past, or also communities like Nepali Women Plus in computing, right? There are a lot of affinity groups that are targeted to support a certain group of people, right? So if you fall in that group, identify those groups and take help. So I think this is something my mentor keeps repeating to me, and it's your network is your network. This is something she keeps on mentioning it to me, and I think that is something that I have personally realized too. all these skills are important, but you will never be 100% skill ready, or you will never match 100% of the skill set that is advertised in a job board for a particular role. What always works is having connections that can vouch for you, that can help you get your foot in the door for the interview. So leverage your network. These are not the only steps, but these are the steps that has worked for me, and from my experience has worked for a lot of people like in my circles. And like you said, these are definitely like the key steps. There can be additional ones like, that would be specific to the kind of role that you're interested in. But I would say this is a general guideline that you can follow.
No, I think that's exactly what I did when I was switching my career to information systems, as to what are, the various fields and roles that I can go into. What's my skills, right? What's my strength? And then what's most important, like you mentioned, a community where you can ask questions, which is a safe space designed to create that environment for you to be able to ask questions and learn from someone who has already done that. They also are able to provide you that roadmap for you to follow and take that career path. And I also wanted to add that, sometimes when we see this job descriptions, people often think you have to have all of those skills in you, but if you only match 60 to 70%, you should go ahead and apply. And I've based on my research, it seems to me that a lot of time women doubt and question themselves a lot versus men do. So that's probably something that I realized and didn't know when I was, applying for jobs and getting into IT. But yeah, all of the things that you said absolutely make sense. And that's where, like you said, the community like Nepalese Women Plus in community and platforms and tech blogging, that's where people can get all the latest and updated informations about what's going on in tech and, get familiarized. Yeah, those are all great.
Yeah. And just add to your point, I don't have the exact numbers or the research on top of my head now, but I know there is a research that does say that women, do not apply for jobs unless they match 100% of the skills, while men do. And I came across this research while I was training for to be the facilitator for Unremarkable program by Google. But yeah, like if you research, if you search for Unremarkable research and papers cited by the program, then you come across the research that actually say what percent of women do that.
Yeah. It looks like women definitely need to work on their self-doubt and limiting beliefs to be able to, pivot career into IT especially and stand out, right? In fact, in every career. So I wanted to ask you, Shreya, talking about, being a successful IT professional, I'm pretty sure that you've faced some challenges and difficulties in life. I wanted to ask and understand from your perspective, what serves as your anchor, especially in this difficult and tough times, be it in personal or professional career, and how do you maintain the resilience and stay true to yourself throughout these tough times?
Challenges are always there. I would say I have been immensely lucky in that I've had a lot less challenges than what people, from Nepal or people around me have faced to be where they are today. I've been immensely lucky, and that is definitely because of the privileges I had growing up, the family that I was born into. All of that did play a huge part in the kind of life I lived, which I would say was much easier than what I see around. But who is without challenges, right? Everybody has their own kind of challenges that they'll have to navigate. And for me, whenever I am faced with a challenge that I think is bigger than myself, or that I think is something that I can't solve, I just pick up my phone and call my dad. He is my anchor. It would not be an overstatement to say he's my anchor. He's really like the first person that comes to my mind when I'm like at this tipping point trying to give up on something that I'm working on. Like whether he can fully like see, through my head or like see through the situation I am in, he always comes up with something that works for me.
Mm.
And it's usually like very ambitious statements like, people without internet did it. You can do it too. Like, I wouldn't say ambitious, but like, very
Positive side.
yeah, very positive statements. My dad is definitely like, I think his peers and like people who've worked with him would agree with me when I say this. He has this very positive attitude toward lives and problems. Sometimes I call it like it is too positive to be real, but that does end up helping in so many ways when I sit back and look at things. He's very positive, and he makes this really grand statements. And at the very least, it makes me realize that this problem is not as big as I think it is. And like his dad, I think he's the first person, he's my anchor. But then whenever I'm in, my dad is the first person I reach out to. And then slowly I open up to others, especially like my close friends and my mentors. And then they are the ones who are usually like, up to date with like what I'm doing, where I'm up to, so they can see the problem as they are, not just as a father who just wants to, be that positive light and be that support for his daughter. And they know why is the problem really like affecting me so much, and they have a more objective take on things. So I'm really grateful to my peers, mentors, and friends around me. But my dad is my anchor. Like, regardless of the fact that, like, being from a different generation than he is, a lot of things he says is like too optimistic to be real. Oh, he's a boomer who's like lived in a different century than I am.
Yeah.
Like, like all of that aside, he is my anchor. Even though I feel like there are times his solution really does not match up to my realities of life. Also, given the fact that I don't live in Nepal anymore, but he's definitely my anchor. He is the first person I reach out to, and he is the person who, like, takes a part of my burden without taking, without really being here and really taking it for real. But like, he does that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think I agree with you 100%. And I was telling you off camera as well that just like you, my dad is my role model as well. And he's definitely my anchor. I mean, my mom holds a special place in my heart, and I'm pretty sure it's the same for you. But I think what I've learned from my dad is resilience, like, how he faced all those difficult times in life. And I saw him without complaining. He would just tackle each and every challenges and problems in life. And I remind myself of this fact that I'm his daughter. So if I'm his daughter, that means if he can do it, he's instilled this belief and confidence in me that I can do it. And it's sort of like how I re-anchor myself sometimes. It's very easy to forget, right? Like in a day-to-day life, you sort of forget where you came from and you forget your roots. But I sort of remind myself and re-anchor myself, think of my dad, like, I'm my dad's daughter. I got this. And I think the biggest gift any guardian or parent can give their daughter is confidence in who she is, in loving who she is and accepting who she is, and instilling this conviction within herself to walk difficult paths in life and just love her the way she is. And I think that's very important.
Especially like coming from the society that we come from, it's not common, right?
Mm,
It is not at all common for parents to really let their daughters choose their own path,
mm-hmm,
right? We Things are changing now, but I would say it was very true, especially like at the time when I was growing up. We had choices, we had opportunities, but there were several conditions attached to that, choices and freedom and opportunities that we got. It was never truly like a true freedom or like true choice.
mm-hmm.
There would be like, it was like multiple choice questions in exams. There are choices, but at the same time, they're just four things that you can choose from, predefined. Yeah, I don't know if that made sense, but like that's what I was thinking.
No, it does make sense. Just like you said, I remember, especially being born and brought up in Nepal, there was this whole discrimination about boy child and girl child. And I'm from a small town, so I've had a privileged childhood. But having said that, there are definitely other scenarios and environment where everybody don't get that opportunity. And I think I just want to take this moment to say that, sometime parents have to be that stereotype breaker to raise their girls in a different mentality where they empower their daughters in a way where they see themselves as a free people, are
Yeah,
able to make their own choices, right? And I'm pretty sure things are changing now,
yeah.
right?
It must have been hard for them, right? As
Mm,
parents, to not do what like everybody else is doing, because
mm,
peer pressure is a real it's a real thing
mm,
even today. And in a group of friends sitting there with your tea in the tea shop with like a bunch of other men and telling, no, my daughter will do whatever she wants, right?
yes.
It must have been hard to be that
Mm,
parent. But yeah, I'm right, really grateful for my parents being so strong, especially my dad, and letting me choose the path I want, being the biggest support that I reach out to even today. And I'm happy, to have that kind of connection with my parents, because being able to be in that state of mind where, like, regardless of what happens, there is like this two people who you can always go back to, is a reassuring thing.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And in those times of difficulty, just having that one conversation with someone who believes in you, who loves you, and someone who's your, happens to be your dad is even more a cherry on cake.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
it has been like very. He is a very instrumental figure in my life, from the work he did for the community. That that really inspires me and speaks to who I want to be, and what I'm doing and what I want to do in life. So
Yeah, and it's great that you're taking or you're continuing his legacy of serving people, giving back to the community, and making sure that the challenges that you face, people don't face, and that's how you come up with these communities to help women in tech and represent women, help people make better impact in tech industry and get those opportunities and scholarships. I think that's great. As we near the end of our discussion, Shreya, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I will be including the links in the show notes below so that people know where they can connect with you further. But thank you again. I have thoroughly enjoyed our conversation today. Thank you, Shreya.
thank you for having me, Sabeena. Thank you for giving me the platform to talk.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for joining me this week on the Reset Mantra. I am Sabeena Maharjan. Join me again next week, and in the meantime, please subscribe and leave me a review. If you have someone who you think will be great on the show, please get in touch and find me and the podcast on Instagram at I am Sabeena Maharjan and at The Reset Mantra. I am so looking forward to next week, and I'll catch you then.